2-Minute Mysteries by the creator of Encyclopedia Brown, Donald J. Sobel. Last week, when we were here together, we talked about the case of the Balloon Man. Here's just the first paragraph to remind you of what the story was, and I'm interested to see how many of you came up with the proper conclusion. The whole force is looking for Izzy the ballroom man who kidnapped little Dennis Farrell, Inspector Winter said to Dr. Halligan. Doesn't anyone know where Izzy hangs out? Nobody knows anything about him, replied the inspector. Once a week he stops his old truck by the Farrell estate and gives out popcorn and museum-shaped pink balloons. So that was the first part of the story. It ended with, yesterday, concluded the inspector, Dennis's father received a note stating that Dennis was being held for ransom and that instructions would soon follow. Well, putting together everything you've told me, said Inspector Halligan, I think both Dennis and the Blue Man may have been kidnapped. So why do you think that maybe, based off the information I gave you last week, that both could have been kidnapped? Well, if you got it right, congrats. If you didn't, here's the answer. Halligan realized that Sam Potts had used the innocent clergyman to confirm a tale of kidnapping, which never occurred as he reported it. Potts had obviously stuck the balloon high in the tree as a prop. On a day without any wind, a balloon blown by your breath would never reach taller than a tree. So that is the conclusion and answer for that. Now we're going to move on to a new mystery called The Case of the Bamboo Fence. Now this here place, said the bandy-legged little guide, is Dead Man's Creek, being so named for the tragedy of '98. Dr. Halligan and the other dudes on the Wild West tour gazed blankly upon a muddy stream. Doc Holloway's cabin stood right here, continued the guide. I guess Doc was the most popular feller in these parts. Well, one afternoon, Doc is peddling and patching up a peddler when Jim Sterling burst in. Jim says he was in town when a lone desperado with a pair of fancy six-shooters cleaned out the bank. In all the fuss and shooting, Jim is mistaken for the gunman and has to hightail it out of there to save his hide. There was no time for playing detective just then. A posse was coming. Doc believed Jim was innocent, and so he put on Jim's shirt and hat. Doc figured to lead the posse off long enough for Jim to escape. After getting his patient, the peddler, to keep his mouth shut, Doc cut a length of rail about 6 feet long from his bamboo fence. He tells Jim to sit in the creek and breathe through a hollow straw, which was maybe as big around as a 2-bit piece. Then Doc rides Jim's horse away and the posses follow. Later, Jim is declared dead, which was not good. He drowned in the creek. The peddler fished him out an hour after Doc decoyed the posse. Doc declaimed poor Jim panicked underwater and drowned. He didn't panic. He was murdered. How did Halligan know? Can't tell you yet. Think about it. How was he murdered? He was given a tube to breathe out of the water and in the water. So who murdered him and how? So think about it this week, and next week we'll be back with the case of the big deal. Thanks for tuning in to 2-Minute Mysteries. I'm Terry. Have a great week.